Welcome and thank you for joining us here on the Dash Podcast. I'm your host, Tre and this episode, as always, is sponsored to you by the Gamage Consulting Group. We help schools, educators enhance student engagement and voice. You can visit tregamage.com/shop to learn more about the services that we offer and visit iTunes or Spotify to listen to the Dash Podcast. But joining me today on the podcast is Devonte Greer of Cleveland, Ohio. He is a high school career coach, and we actually share an alma mater in the illustrious Miami, Ohio University. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm pretty good, man. Love and honor. Thanks for having me on, Tre. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We've got to get more. I've got to get more Miami men and women on the podcast. There's a lot of folks doing some great things. Like I just said, Jaylen Brown will be coming on in a couple weeks too, man. Miami is a real special school. We can actually, what do you think? It's weird when you're at Miami because it's so beautiful and, all the quotes and the cliches about Miami. When you leave though, it might just be me. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like it's true. Like I love Miami more that I'm gone now. And I appreciate it for what was available, the opportunities while we were there. Do you feel the same way?
For sure, man. I agree. You can kind of get wrapped up, in the culture of Miami and like you said, the quotes, love and honor, the campus. You just kind of, it's like your own bubble. And then you get out of there and you think about it and you hear about others' experiences or you think about maybe I think about a lot is the curriculum and just like it took me like a year or two to realize that everyone's undergrad experience wasn't as rigorous as ours was in Miami. And being there, you're like, man, this is rough. This is kind of difficult. But then coming out, thinking about how much more prepared I am for. It's not like I'm still out here, writing 5-page papers or doing research assignments, but just the way I approach work and the way I approach everyday thinking. So definitely, I appreciate Miami and everything it exposed me to, the resources available, like you said. And just Miami was real big on like being better than it was, the year before and growth. So I definitely appreciate, just that whole mentality. Yeah,
for sure. I agree so much, man. I feel like I'm using everything that I learned in my undergrad. I study psychology. I'm not in the psych field, but like you said, the work ethic, the research part, we're always number one in undergraduate teaching at Miami. So I feel like I think it's true. It just shows in the ability and the career paths of myself personally and everybody else that I know from Miami. Everybody's kind of on their game, and if you did what you were supposed, if you took care of business at Miami, you're in a good position once you leave.
I definitely agree with you, man. Another person, just that you can reach out to, just in education. I know, like you said, Jaylen. I know Imoka. He does a lot of like mentoring and everything. He's in the law field. Taylor Bryant, she's a school counselor. So, she has like another like unique perspective, that way in education. So, just a few, Miami alums that you can reach out to and, pick their brain and just see what their experiences have been,
Yeah. I'm definitely going to have to do that, man. I might have to have a whole month of Miami celebrations. Okay?
Miami month. I like it.
There we go. That's coming up soon. So, but on the education tip, so you mentioned that you started off thinking you were going to be in finance, but kind of switched lanes into education. Can you talk to me about your journey in, just from college and how you realized that being a career coach was the path that you wanted to get started on?
Oh, for sure. Like I mentioned earlier, I came to school and I was a big math guy. Like, I know I love math, numbers, everything. But I was also, very personal. I like to build relationships with people, sustaining those relationships. So I got to school and I'm like, I don't want to be an accountant because I'll be behind the desk all day. So I'll just be a financial advisor. That way I can interact with people and deal with numbers. It didn't work out that way. I mentioned, Miami's, rigorous curriculum and just the program. So Farmers was really difficult for me. So it was an adjustment and I had to pivot. And during my time, at school, I was also a football coach, youth football coach for ages, 8 to 10. And I loved it. I loved the mentoring aspect, the teaching, the coaching, just being able to be there for my players, for the youth, and like not just supporting them on the field, but off the field. So after coming back from that summer, my first year of coaching, I decided to go into sociology and family studies. Sociology more so is because my advisor told me it was real malleable. I could do a lot of different things with it. And family studies is because I knew I wanted to go into youth development. So just going to that lane and just appreciating and learning and teaching. And I knew it was kind of too late to go into education because I still wanted to get out of Miami in a decent amount of time. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I graduated with my degree, sociology and family studies in December 2015. And then from there, I was still kind of lost. I'm like, okay, I like mentoring, coaching, but what am I going to do with this? Right. And then I was presented with the unique opportunity, with City Year Cleveland, it's an AmeriCorps program. They focus a lot on, near peer mentoring, like in class, like intervention. So I had the unique experience of being able to work in a classroom, with inner city kids, actually back here in Cleveland, and I could work alongside the teacher. So I could, I would partner on lessons with him, or I could like pull the student out of class, and it was great just developing a relationship with, 15 to 20 students, getting a certain amount of tutoring time with them every week or so, developing lesson plans, going over subjects, watching them grow, and not even just focusing on the academic side, but it was a lot of, like social emotional learning as well. We had different, behavioral goals. We had different attendance goals, holding them accountable to those goals and just, letting them know that there's someone in their corner to get them through this, whole school experience. Yeah. So it was great. It was a great opportunity.
Yeah. And that's perfect the way you put it. I feel like you hit the well-roundedness of it. I feel like a lot of times in education and you're coming from a different place. And I feel like I am too, just from a non-pedagogy perspective, not classroom instruction, but everything else that goes into the education system. And, depending on who you ask, education has been so much the same for 100 years. And now we're finally starting to realize that, hey, I have to actually build the whole child. Like I can't just teach you how to pass the SAT or the state test. I have to help you learn how to restore your mind and your spirit from what you've been through as a child. How do you see, in your role as a career coach, what impact do you see that you're able to have on some of these kids that you're working with?
I really liked how you mentioned the whole child, because especially with schools like I work in, the inner city, it's not just about school. It's about what's going on at home. It's about what happened the weekend before. So today's Monday, right? I can guarantee you something might have happened with one of my students on Saturday evening that's still bothering them. Yeah. Several of my students lost classmates this summer. We had about three students pass this summer, and a lot of them are dealing with that. A lot of them. And I feel as an educator, it's our responsibility to support that portion and not just say, okay, I know your friend died, but we got to get ready for the ACT. I'm sorry. It would just be irresponsible. So just being aware of the traumas that they're going through or the traumas that they might have been through and taking that into account when we're trying to learn. And in my position, it's actually, I know I keep talking about, a unique perspective, but as a career coach, I teach a curriculum like based on, employability skills, high school success, social emotional learning. And I'm not just confined to, teaching math or social studies or reading. So I really use this as an opportunity to connect with my students on more than just an academic level. So it is really something to be able to be there for them in that way and support them like individually or as a class, because, we're all, kind of doing the same things.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of deficits are you seeing in your students? I know like this summer I was working with, I had about 20 students that were taking online courses for the summer, and none of the students completed they had to do a speech, a video of themselves recording a speech, and they didn't like their writing assignment. So that tells me, again, looking from a college and career perspective, that we need to implement a public speaking class, during some of their elective time, and also looking at how they can become better writers and get comfortable with that, because that's not going away. What are some of the deficits that you're seeing with your students, and how are you able to kind of adjust your curriculum to meet their needs?
I think you hit a real important one, their writing skills. A lot of these, I get a lot of 16, 17-year-olds, right? And they're they're struggling to write at an 11th grade level. A lot of them are still 8th grade or 7th grade even. And if they can't, communicate in that way, if I say, oh, we got an assignment, so just give me a 2-page paper on what do you want to do in 2 years? What school do you want to go to? What career would you choose? If they don't have the confidence or feel that they can't complete that because, I don't like writing, I don't like reading, so I'm dealing with that. Or like you said, maybe implementing more public speaking courses. A lot of them lack like soft skills. So just interacting with others in a positive manner, because a lot of them come from environments that are they're so combative, or they're just so, it's just always, some aggression, and whether that's from their peers, their neighborhood, their families, and it's like a constant push and pull, and it's never just a conversation or an understanding between anyone. So if you get them in a classroom setting and you say, hey, stand up, introduce yourself, say something about yourself to the class. I get a lot of, I don't want to do that. I don't like nobody. I don't want to talk to anybody. They don't know me. And it's like I said, it's a constant battle with just being a part of any positive kind of situation, because they're so used to everything being like negative and combative.
Yeah. That's so true, man. And it's really sad, and themes. It's been cool to kind of have a podcast, because I get to have so many conversations with educators and see that we're all kind of dealing with the same things in different ways, and just the lack of want to or engagement for them. You mentioned, in your role as a career coach and supporting the students outside the classroom through SEL, how do you help them set goals? Are there templates that you use, or for like your curriculum that you're teaching? Or is there a curriculum that's already set, or are you having to make this curriculum on your own?
So we have like a skeleton curriculum. So I teach through a nonprofit. I teach through a nonprofit called Youth Opportunities Unlimited. Okay. And through Wow You, that's what we call it. We have it's called the JOG curriculum, which is part of a larger umbrella, JAG, which is Jobs for America's Graduates. Okay. And through the curriculum, like I said, it's various employability skills, but it's also, different, like self-sustaining things. So how to decipher, your likes and dislikes, how to create goals, how to follow through on goals, different things like that. And one of the main ways that I hold them accountable is that we develop SMART goals, right? So early in the year, SMART goals is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, like time oriented, right? So we create a goal at the beginning of the year. About every month or so, we have what we call ISSs, which is an individual service strategy. So on there, we have an academic goal, we have a personal goal, and we have an employment goal. And then write it down. We say 3 steps on how to get there, and then when you want to be done by. Talk about it, and then we got like a folder where we keep them all. And then throughout, that month or so, we're going through our curriculum, talking about just everything, whether it's like how do I apply to college, and the different lessons kind of build up on how to achieve those goals. And then we revisit them a month later and say, hey, how close are you to this? What have you done to accomplish this? What haven't you done? And then just being able to hold them accountable, through the goals that they set for themselves. So I'm not giving them these goals. These are things that they want to do, whether it's I want to save $100 or I got a D in Spanish right now. I would really like to get a B, so, my mom won't be mad at me, small things like that. So just holding them accountable and having it in front of them, because it's easy to say, oh, I want to, if you ask a kid, oh, what do you want to do this year? Oh, I want to pass the 11th grade. Okay, how are you going to pass the 11th grade? What steps do you need to do? What's holding you back? What barriers do you see? So just holding them accountable and keeping their goals in front of them, and not just what they are, but how to accomplish them is like a great way that if I've been able to, accomplish that with them.
Yeah. And kind of helping them walk through those steps.
Exactly. Because and it's not even just me. Like what I try and do, at least in my classroom, to keep engagement high, is to hold each other accountable. So if when we discussed this earlier, that Marcus said, hey, I'm struggling in Spanish, maybe John can say, oh, I got an A in Spanish already. Maybe I can help you, and just like having them, kind of depend on each other more so, and just knowing that it's not just the teacher that's in your corner, but everyone is in your corner. it makes a huge difference because they get more out of their peers than they would ever get from me. So just using that as to my advantage.
So what did you learn about education that you didn't know before you were involved in the industry?
I would have to say that the disconnect between, the teachers and administration. And I notice a lot that teachers have like a specific way that they want to go about teaching their class, or they have like specific, curriculum or strategy that they want to like go through for the year, right? And sometimes, it all works great. Everybody's on the same page. Students move at like a positive pace. Teachers are happy. But also sometimes administration has maybe a different agenda. And whether that agenda is, enforced or biased because of funding or different grants, or maybe there was a switch in the district. Maybe this year the district is focusing on test scores, or this year the district is focusing on, our social studies feedback is coming back very negative. We need to spend more time on social studies. So now social study teachers, you guys have one less planning period. And then that throws off like teachers' happiness. It influences how they teach. It influences maybe how they go about, curriculum with their students, and just seeing how it can be a battle between those two and how much it affects the child.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something I noticed that's different. And also students, at least in my experience, in the Cleveland Public School District, some students are like very much behind. So if I have a 10th grader who's only reading at a 7th grade level, that affects everything. Right. So now, instead of, going on to maybe reading Caesar, we have to read maybe a lower book, or maybe let's say I have 15 kids. Let's say 9 of them are behind. Those other 6 are now they're chugging ahead, but I have to stay behind in this. And now you're influencing the students who maybe need to go forward, or you're having to push forward the students who are behind and now they aren't ready. And then something I've noticed is that those students getting pushed ahead, they never catch up to where they're supposed to be. Wow. So now you have seniors who never learned how to read at their level 3 years ago, who are still 4 years behind. And it's a terrible cycle, because at that point it's hey, we got to keep the bus rolling. We can't just stop here. So just how much influence a student not moving at, because I know all students aren't going to move at the same pace, but not moving along enough, how much it influences, their learning going forward. So two things that I didn't realize before I got into education.
Yeah, those are really good ones too. I've heard people talk about before the just having bad leadership or a difficult administration, how that affects teachers. But I think the awareness that you put on that, in the different mindset that a lot of times teachers and administrators may have when it comes to accomplishing the same goal. So that's a great piece that you just highlighted there, as well as students falling behind. When we went to, I went to visit Ron Clark's school a couple months ago with the school that I'm working with, and they talked about teaching to the highest student. So whoever the most gifted student was in that class, they create a lesson that challenges that student's level of rigor, and that it forces the rest of the students to catch up and meet that criteria. So it's an interesting perspective.
That's a very interesting perspective.
Yeah. And I mean, seeing the kids, so they start in 6th grade or 5th grade, I think. But by the time they finish their 5th grade year, and really, so because of that, they start with content that nobody knows. So like, when you go to Ron Clark, you may have learned pre-algebra before, but once you go to 5th grade at the Ron Clark Academy, you're learning algebraic equations or 3-step problems. I don't know, whatever you learn it. Since nobody knows the information, everybody's on the same kind of platform, and all the students are able to kind of grow at that same pace. So that was an interesting perspective that I saw when I went to visit down there.
The only thing I saw, I understand where they're coming from, like to start with fresh information. The only thing that I would wonder is a lot of, at least with math and just about any subject, is how much it builds off of each other. Yeah. So let's say I'm a student who who did really well with adding and subtracting when I was in third grade, right? When you get to fourth grade and now you're multiplying, it's easier to multiply if you have like the basic understanding of just adding more numbers. So I would wonder like how much that would affect students who maybe didn't grasp a subject beforehand. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah. So that would be something to explore. Going back down there or visiting what they've got going on. So that's just one way to do it. You know, everybody has their own method to their madness. What is your ultimate goal as a career coach or in education? What is your ultimate goal to accomplish while you're in education?
Man, that's a big question, man. I would really have to say just like closing the gap between ability and opportunity. A lot of the students that I come across, man, I can tell you they have so much potential, man. Like they learn in different ways, but they have so much going for them, right? Whether it's, hey, Mr. Greer, I really like editing videos on Instagram. Now me, I'm thinking, oh man, I hate editing videos on Instagram. It's difficult. I'm not really sure what apps to download. These kids create full-blown music videos, man. Wow. Full-blown music videos off apps on their phone. An iPhone 6S, and they're making full-blown music videos. I would never in a million years think about to do something like that, right? They learn so different and in such a unique way that I want to be able to take how they're learning and have them apply it to real life and use it to better their situations or their family situations, and just having them understand that everything isn't 12 years of school, 4 years of college, 2 years for a master's, 4 years for a PhD. Like that's not the only track, and it's not the only way to learn. And if they can understand that the way that they learn isn't bad or wrong, but just an alternative path, and using that to do whatever it is that they want, just applying it to succeed. That's what it should be. Using the knowledge and how you learn to succeed instead of trying to follow a path that honestly might kind of be outdated at this point,
Yeah.
So just taking advantage of like just being self-aware of how they learn and using it to succeed in their own way. And just like I said, just like closing that gap between the ability that they already have and the opportunities in front of them. If we can just close it just a little bit, I can see so much more success for students from the inner city. Honestly, not even the inner city, but even like in rural communities.
Yes.
Like I know they struggle just as much as the students that I serve.
Yes, indeed.
And if they can, figure out like the best way for them to learn and how to take advantage of it, man, you'll see like just such a rise and just like success from places besides, the top 10% of the country. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. No, you hit that spot on the dot on the head. That's why this podcast exists. You just said, well, you added your piece to it. I said the Dash podcast is helping to bridge gaps in education. That's the whole goal. That's the whole mission of the podcast, is for people just like yourself to talk about the gaps that you're bridging in education. And so that gap from ability and opportunity, wow, that speaks absolute volumes. I think one about you, but also the educators that are in education. And it's been a widely discussed topic on the podcast that only 2% of educators are Black males. So every opportunity that we have to really pour into, our population, and maybe 15% of the population is African American, but that's a huge gap. From 2%.
Think about how dense some of those populations where they are, though. You know what I mean? So you got, yes, it's 15%, but if you're in Cleveland, or think about like teachers in Mississippi, like that had the most Black people in the entire country, and if only 2 of the educators are Black males, man, that's something. There's such a disparity, like to have someone who doesn't look like you or maybe can't relate to your experience trying to tell you how this is, how you should learn, how it should be. It's a disconnect, man. Like I was lucky enough to have, like 3 or 4 Black male teachers in my life, but think about this, the ones who don't. Yeah. And it's something to think about, man. And it's it's definitely having an impact, or it has been having an impact, and hopefully it's just something that we can like change moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. I think I only had, I think my first black teacher was Tim Staples my freshman year in college.
Tim Staples. Wow, really?
Yep. I think I had one black art teacher in like maybe second grade, but then it was Tim Staples. And Tim Staples is actually, shout out to him. He's the reason I got down to South Carolina. I called him while I was studying abroad and told him I was looking for some jobs. He told me about a couple, and I ended up coming down here to South Carolina. He was my supervisor for 2 years, 2 years while I moved down here. And he's back in, I think, Southern Illinois, and I stayed down here and started my business. So you're exactly right, too, when it comes to density. I mean, South Carolina, this is the majority of the people here are black. You know, I work with a charter school in a rural community. The school used to be down a dirt road with some trailers on it, and it's the most diverse school in the county, with 76% of the students being black. Now it is a very diverse staff as well. I think we do have, off the top of my head, I don't even know how many black educators we have, but we have several, black educators, male and female. But it's a very mixed and diverse crowd that we've got in there. So that's cool. And I'm curious too, and we'll wrap up here shortly, but you're working with a nonprofit, the Youth Opportunities Unlimited. How does that work, working with a nonprofit, but working with a public school? Like, how does that relationship or partnership go about?
Luckily, while you has been around for long enough, that has a positive reputation with the school district and the different schools that it's in. So we get funding, through JOG or JAG, the larger umbrella, right?
Mm-hmm.
From that program, we're kind of, contracted out to the schools. So if the school wants the program in the building, they call us and we go over, everything we do, everything we teach and everything, and they decide if they want us. And from then, as a career coach, my position is I am a teacher, so I teach all the curriculums. I administer all the testing. Mm-hmm. I do all the grading, everything. So I'm a full-blown teacher. But since I'm not a teacher of the district, we have what's called a teacher of record. So that's they handle attendance. They officially put our grades in. Yeah. And other than that, we're fully integrated into the staff. We attend all PDs. All programs with the school, whether it's, family nights, orientations, like discipline assemblies, we're fully integrated into the staff. So the only thing is we're just not teachers. Yeah. And right now I want to say 12 schools across the district, and we have about 14 career coaches. And another thing that's like really helpful is that, like I said, we're not really confined to just teaching, one or two subjects. We can kind of capture the whole child and, go about the curriculum that we have.
Yeah. I love it. And so you can kind of go in and is every curriculum that you guys use, is it focused on the whole child? Like, you're a career coach. Do you have maybe a math or science teacher that can go in and teach those classes, but also embed some of that whole student learning in it?
So I wouldn't say necessarily we have like a math teacher or a science teacher, but within the curriculum, like we do like cover like basic things like that. So I actually teach two curriculums. One is on employability, post-secondary success, whether it's college, going into the workforce or the military. But another curriculum that I do teach is it's on entrepreneurship. It's through a corporation called Nifty, was the network for teacher entrepreneurship. And then that's when we really go into, more maybe like math and science skills, and just applying that on how into being an entrepreneur or to, actually create a self-sustaining business. And we spend the whole year like learning those different principles, how to test for something, if this is a sustainable idea, if people will respond well to it, and they spend the entire year, creating their own business. And then at the end, we have like a competition, and they can go to nationals in Chicago or New York, depending on where it is. And they can like get actual funding for the business that they create. So I will say that it is a good opportunity, because from there we can bring in like different speakers or different people in to, talk about their situations. And then that person could be, a professor of math or a professor of science, just be able to speak to their experience and how it like affected their education or how it affected their road to entrepreneurship. So that is a great opportunity. So even if it's not a career coach who is the person bringing that into the child, we know someone who can do that, and we bring them in.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really cool. I think that's a great alternative way as well to be involved in education. I know about AmeriCorps and Teach for America and stuff like that. So there's some great alternate routes to get into education and make the impact that you want to make on the next generation. That's great. So how can we get in contact with you and with Youth Opportunities Unlimited if somebody else is interested in being involved in an organization like this?
If you ever want to like reach out to me, I can put you in contact with my supervisor or with our vice president of programs. So to contact me, you can use my cell at 216-466-3554, or you can email me at D as in diploma, G as in great, REER at youthopportunities.org. You can send me an email or send me a message, and I'll respond to you, whatever questions you have, or if you want me to put you in contact with someone else. If I can't answer the question, I know someone who can.
Yes, indeed. I love it. Any final takeaways that you want to share with us, Devonte?
Hey, Tre, I really appreciate what you're doing, man. I've been listening to a few of the podcasts, and they're great. You get a lot of like very unique perspectives, and I appreciate hearing from other educators at all times and just applying that to what I'm doing. So I appreciate everything you do, and we need more of these, man. We need more podcasts like this. We need more people thinking the way you do and just trying to engage educators, because I think that's the most important thing. Because if we don't engage each other and push each other to be better and work harder for the youth we serve, if we're all not servant leaders, I don't know what else we could be doing. So I appreciate you, man, and keep it up.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, man, and thank you for taking that time out to join me today as well. And if you're listening right now, man, take your time to go follow D. Greer or email D. Greer at youthopportunities.org. Can't wait to talk to you again. If you have any comments, please share those. Share the episode with somebody that needs to hear it. And we will see you next time. This is The Dash.